Hi, I'm Jenny Taylor Martin, a director here at Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. Today I'm speaking with the authors of Edgar Cayce on Auras and Colors, Carol-Ann Liaros and Kevin Todeschi. Carol-Ann and Kevin, it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Carol-Ann, you're a psychic and you've been training others to develop their psychic abilities for years. What can you tell us about auras and how people can begin to see them?
The aura is a multi-layered, multicolored energy that surrounds the body, and it appears to radiate from the body many feet out, depending upon the mental, physical, spiritual health of the individual as to how bright it is, how colorful it is, what the colors are, and I believe that it carries the frequency of our past lives and so on. So when a psychic tunes into a person, I believe they're tuning into that energy field, which contains everything, sum total of what you are, really. And it really is easy to see. When I hear people say, well, I try to see auras, I say, cross out the word try. You relax into the process because you need a soft look rather than a hard stare. And there's a refocusing of the eyes to see on a higher, finer level of energy. That's all it really is. And so then by relaxing into it, you'll be able to see auras. A good way to practice is in front of the mirror, trying to look at your own aura, relaxing into it because you're not uncomfortable, with someone else there. And then you can begin to play with the aura. Once you begin to see it as the haze, the glow, the intensification of the color behind you, then you can begin to meditate, for example, and the aura will change. And then begin to remember maybe a situation you were in where you were angry and notice how it changes. So you begin to get feedback as to what these different colors mean, what the size means, how the aura changes when people are feeling and experiencing different things. It's very easy to do.
Is there scientific proof that auras actually exist?
It's so exciting because there is. And I've been in this field a long time. Back in the 60s when Semyon and Valentina Kirlian came out with Kirlian photography, which were, pictures of the finger pads, of the aura, etc. I remember sitting with a bunch of scientists and a bunch of psychics, and the scientists were arguing, well, it's not really the aura, it has to do with pressure, it has to do with moisture, it has to do with this. And the psychics were all saying, no, that's what I see when I look at the aura. They all agreed, the scientists didn't. Well, that's all gone by the wayside now. All of those things have been taken care of. And in fact, they have moving pictures of the aura, which can be used in the medical profession in very powerful, very wonderful ways.
Kevin, what was Edgar Cayce's interest in auras?
Well, most people know Edgar Cayce as the sleeping prophet. And for 43 years of his adult life, he put himself to sleep and could respond to virtually any question imaginable. But in addition to that, all his life, as a child growing up, he could see colors around people, and he said he often associated certain people with certain colors. And he came to believe that not only could everyone see auras, but each color really meant something. And so when he died in 1945, he had just been finishing working on a booklet with his biographer, Tom Segru, about auras and what the colors mean. And actually that booklet has been included in the book Carol-Ann and I compiled.
What made the two of you decide to write this book?
Well, Carol-Ann and I have known each other for more than 20 years, and I've had the privilege of being in on a number of her workshops and conferences, and also speaking at various conferences that she's been at as well. And it seemed to me a great mix to take Carol-Ann's straightforward, easy approach to working with your intuition, and Edgar Cayce information on colors and what various colors mean, and put those two together. I thought it would be a great book.
Carol-Ann, can you see auras?
Yes. Yes, and for a long time, I didn't discover I was psychic until I was 29 years old. And I remember saying to the head of research at the Human Dimensions Institute, Sister M. Justice Smith, when she asked me, do you see auras? I said, oh no, I don't see auras. She said, well, don't you see anything around people? And so, oh yeah, I said I see a haze or a glow or, almost like cigarette smoke at times and so on. But I don't see auras because I see it around people and things, because at that time I thought only people had auras. From what I had read, I somehow got that impression. She said, well, take a look at what do you see around me? So, I looked at her and I said, well, I see this energy, a fuzziness around your head and so on, but it stops at your left ear and there's like a break in it right down to your elbow. And I said, so see, I don't see auras. And she said, well, that's very interesting because I have, I think it called a frozen shoulder, and she goes to the doctor in physical therapy for it, and her neck hurts right down to her elbow. And I thought, well, now that's interesting. But I have a very analytical mind. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't fooling myself. So I went to the eye doctor and to see if there was anything wrong with my eyes. And he said, no, there's nothing wrong with your eyes, you're fine, etc. But I was still seeing this around people and things. And then I began to see colors. And I thought, okay, do I have glaucoma? Okay, I'm going to make sure that, what I'm seeing is not something else. So I went, no problem with my eyes, and I continued to see color around people.
Why do you think it's easier for some people to see auras while others may not sense them or see them?
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that we all are a different kind of learner. We have visual learners, we have auditory learners, we have kinesthetic learners, etc. And some people are very visual. And so they probably will see the aura faster and maybe easier than people who are more auditory or more kinesthetic. But everyone can learn to see them, but you have to have a motivation. For example, if you're a doctor or a nurse or someone who it's important to have a psychologist, it's important to have more information than the person's telling you or even knows about themselves. Being able to see the aura is another tool for you to have. But practice, like everything else. You take a tennis lesson and you have to practice to get good at it. And people have to relax into it. So I suggest that people do a relaxation or yoga or something before they, try and see an aura.
Kevin, are there any particular stories about auras from the Cayce materials that you'd like to share with us?
Sure, there's quite a number of stories. First of all, when Edgar Cayce gave a life reading, which are really those readings that talked about a soul's purpose, their strengths, their talents, as well as the things that the person needed to work on in the present, very often he would give colors or colors associated with that person. And he suggested that certain colors could help enhance the things that we were supposed to be working on. He also suggested that all of us to some extent see auras, even if we don't already know that, and that we can recognize it when we feel like we feel really good in a certain color, that somehow the colors we have an affinity to are very often a reflection of the very same color we have in our aura at that time. On other occasions, he'd be at a conference or at a group meeting, and he'd go around the room and he'd describe what colors he could see in people's auras and explain what those colors meant to him. So for example, on one occasion he told a woman that the red in her aura suggested she had just had an argument with someone. On another occasion he told someone that the violet he could see in her aura was a reflection of the spiritual interest she was taking on right then. Somebody else was told that green was indicative of the healing profession that they were involved in. So all those various colors meant something to him. Hugh Lynn Cayce, his eldest son, used to tell the story that on one occasion he and his father were in a prison, and Mr. Cayce was talking to some of the inmates, and he was talking to them about the colors he could see in their auras, and went on to suggest that not only could he see the colors, but the pictures he could see in the auras were indicative to him of what event had led to them ending up in prison in the first place, and he could see all that from the aura.
Do you have any personal experience with auras?
I'll tell two brief experiences. The first time I really recognized that something was happening, I was at a university and I had just given a talk to one class and I was going to go give a talk to another class, and I had some free time. So in between I kind of got quiet and meditated and just had been sitting there for a little while. And when I opened my eyes, I noticed that everybody in the hallway, people I didn't know, had kind of a light glow around them. And as I looked at it, it kind of felt to me like unconditional love, for lack of a better word. And I wondered, I felt my left brain kick in, and I thought, I wonder if this is how God sees us. And as soon as I had that thought, the color was gone and the feeling was gone, but I had a sense that somehow I had seen something spiritual about every person. On another occasion, I was in my office and I was trying to help someone with a dream. And this was one of the most convoluted, complicated, long dreams I had ever heard. And usually the way I work with dreams is to try to get a handle on the theme. And this was so complicated I couldn't see a theme. So I felt myself lean forward. And as soon as I leaned forward, it almost felt like I ran into this person's energy field. And as soon as that happened, I knew what the dream was about. And so I related my experience. I feel like this is suggesting something about, and I told her what I had felt. And she told me that was exactly what was going on in her life. So I knew that somehow, just by picking up on her energy, I had got the answer to the question she had about her dream.
The book sounds fascinating, and it's been such a pleasure to speak to both of you today.
Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Edgar Cayce on Auras and Colors, Learn to Understand Color and See Auras, is published by A.R.E. Press and available at arecatalog.com.